Many people say they've been training in the samurai and ninja arts for decades, and I want to show you just what it means to truly train within those arts for decades. Now, join me on this journey, and I'm going to take you through chronological order about the way I have trained to get where I am today, the people I have met and what I have done. My name is Anthony Cummins, and I am Samurai and Ninja History. So subscribe and follow me. So let's get going, but get yourself a copy of Zen and the Samurai Sword, links below. This is one of the oldest videos, if not the oldest video I have done. Now these back in the day, this wasn't the beginning of my training. Of course I started training when I was a child, like we all did. But in 2004, I absolutely restarted again. Didn't mean that I'd finished everything from my previous time. I still carried on, but what I did between 2004 actually and 2008, I actually thought everything I know is quite wrong. So around 2004 I moved to Japan to train with real ninjas, or so I thought. Turns out they weren't. But it meant I lived in Japan, and I've lived in Japan for between 5 and 6 years when I add everything up. And I've been to many museums, and what I decided was I was going to get rid of everything I thought I knew and start again by looking at only museum articles, historical texts, and basically the archaeology and history of the samurai. And while I would be involved with people from the Koryu system, I was going to start from scratch because I'd just come out of my archaeology and history degrees. I've got a master's degree. So I spent, as you can see, traveling around Japan. I spent many years. So I went to places like Koka. This is Koka. This is one of the areas that is famous for ninja. And I went to every museum I could find. I went to every place that had anything to do with ninja. And of course, this led me more deeper down the samurai avenue. Then I found my translation partner, which is superb. She's called Yoshie. She very barely appears on the videos because she's taking the videos, or she doesn't want to be on there. You'll see her though. And this is me with the Bansen Shukai when I'm roughly about 33. I'm 47 now. But basically, I started tracking down every ninja scroll I could, visiting graves such as these, the 47 Ronin. Now, at this point, I'm about 6 years in to my research and a few years into my YouTube life, and so I decided to open it up to other people. And this is JJ, and JJ did a lot of work back in the time to try to bring ninjutsu to life along with others. Unfortunately, I can't show you everyone, but I will show you as many as I can. And what we did is we experimented with the original text to try and find out what the ninja actually did, and then we started to throw away what was rubbish and what was good, and what was useful and what was historical, and start to iron it out. Now, this of course leads to a lot of fire training. So there was lots and lots to do with fire. But I had to bring some Americans in for this because of obviously the legal laws in England. So I tried doing all sorts, like recreating this. This was paper armor from a museum, and I recreated it, bringing up layers of paper and lacquer, and to see how well it'd do. It did okay, but it wasn't amazing. I visited masters from all over Japan. So for example here, and we were doing like fast punches in restaurants and things like that. These people have, reading through all the scrolls. I visited antique markets. I visited so many markets and museums and scroll collections. And the aim was to get rid of what I thought was my knowledge of Japan and really get down and get into Japanese culture. In fact, I would say I truly understand Japanese culture, but I don't always agree and go with it, because the Japanese do have a problem in the way that they approach things and approach research, which means that a lot of things end up being a little bit skewed. So I decided, as I say, to not ignore the people from the Koryu community, but to put history first. What did the real samurai say? What did their houses look like? So I went and visited every museum, every house. This clip here is quite interesting. It got me on television in Japan because I'm talking about the way they used to eat in old Japan, which was sankake taberu, which is basically eating the rice, the fish, the soup in a certain order, in a certain way. But as I say, I needed to find out what the samurai actually were like, and from there is try to look at the weaponry, the armor, and see how realistic the martial arts were. Now remember, I was mainly on a quest for the ninja, mainly, but that led me to deeper samurai training because I thought ninja and samurai were separate, but it turns out they wasn't. But it still meant I had to study from the scrolls, the ninja scrolls. So here I am in my apartment in Japan, learning how to walk like a beggar, a cripple, all the different ways. And I tell you what, I had a lovely little Japanese garden. I had a lovely little house here that I think I was in for about 6 months. And I used to have little barbecues outside, and me and Yoshi were translating the Bansen Shukai at this point, one of basically the Book of Ninja, if you're interested, one of the greatest collections there is for ninja scrolls. But this also meant that I had to find as many ninja scrolls as possible. I was in antique markets, I've been in libraries, I've been everywhere. And as you can see here, I have found and bought some. Now this, the one I'm holding there, is actually one of the oldest scrolls there is available. It's the Mizuka Kami, handwritten by the original guy. That's another version of the Mizuka Kami, but handwritten by someone later on. Of course, I had to have fun times, find out what the Japanese were like, and I ended up at festivals, cherry blossom viewings, all this type of thing. I went everywhere. But I mixed this in a lot with actually the study of castles and what the ninja manuals say. It's okay reading the ninja manuals, but what's best is getting out to the castles and seeing for yourself what they were actually up to and following the way the castles were designed. I, of course, have to keep my Ninja Scroll collection intact. So here, one of the older scrolls, I decided to rebind it. Just in a modest way, if you like, a Western way. And I rebound it, and here it is. As you can see, that's the old scroll with actually lots and lots of inserts to try and keep it from any more damage, to make it last for generations to come. So again, I started to collect, but you don't only collect real ninja scrolls, you can also collect photocopies like these. So I went to every library I could find, and we would find as many scrolls as possible. And they will photocopy them for you, and I had to go through everything. I've been through sword scrolls, gunpo scrolls, gungaku scrolls, everything possible to try to get to the truth of the samurai. I got old families together. This is the Natori family. I pulled them in, got old maps and different maps from the areas to show what actually went on with these samurai researchers. Here you will see, sorry, samurai themselves, and I'm the samurai researcher, of course. Here you'll see that is Wakayama Castle, and I'm on the trail of a man called Natori Sanjuro Masazumi. And basically, what did he do? And he's one of the ninja authors, and I was tracking him down. I even went to the temples he used to frequent. We ended up having meals, staying with monks. I used to take all my old scrolls to older Japanese gentlemen to try to get them, you know, the details translated. But I'm going to be honest with you. You see the two girls either side? They ended up being probably better than the Japanese gentlemen. There is, as politely as I can say it, the Japanese older gentlemen are a little bit stuck in their ways and don't want to change or relook at things. And history has moved on a long way since since those days, and the way we look and approach historical documents. So here again, I'm reinterpreting old documents, and I'm looking at how ninjas would get through darkness. But each time it meant I had to go. This was a torture museum, actually. This was quite an interesting. I think it was in Jochimbo, and this is where they showed you how all the heads used to be presented, or executions used to happen, and all that type of thing. It was a very, very good museum, actually, and the video's done very well since. Death by strangulation there, and it goes on to death by fire, you know, that type of thing. It shows a bit of Western stuff, but I had to then look at the scrolls, and I had here Miyako write them out. So Miyako rewrote them out, and I bring them home to my mother in Japan, in England from Japan, and she would help me put them back together. So here you'll get a rare glimpse of my old mother. Sorry for all the jumping around. I thought I'd got rid of that, but obviously not. So here we're putting together the different scrolls, and I believe this is the 16 tools of the Sawamura clan, and we put everything in together, bound it all up, stitched it all, and there it is, ready to bring another generation of ninja scrolls to carry on. Now, I got a lot of attention from a lot of people around the world, and I get people coming in and having a go, and, you know, really getting involved, and people here like trying to climb the walls and doing a great job about it, and people would send me footage from all over the world. Now, I've got one negative thing here to say, which is a real shame, is that they never stay. I don't know why. Maybe it's me, I'm not sure, but they never ever stay. I think mainly there's a lot of internal politics goes on inside there's a lot between the Koryu people who don't want to admit that maybe things are a little little bit different than what their masters say, and research shows that, you know, there's a lot of changes gone on, and a lot of people think that the ninja side is more just make-believe and fantasy, but this is all from historical documents. So it got to the point where people would then start to pull me in for seminars across the world, and I would move over to Italy. This is Alex Hilera on the left there, as I am in Italy, teaching stuff. And of course, I've been not all over the world, but plenty of places in the world teaching my findings and trying to get to the bottom of ninjutsu. Now, again, it always comes back to fire. So fire martial arts in the samurai is called kajutsu, the skill of fire. Now, the ninja use these, the samurai use this. They use them for different things. But bit by bit, we've had to deal with explosives, that type of thing, you know, all the types of things that, you know, you're probably not. And we've had some issues with the police. However, it's all part of Japanese culture, and I've tried to find every aspect of Japanese culture that I could while living there. And I try to capture as much as I can and experience as much as I can, and especially video it so I can bring it to you guys. I've had to go through the different walks that the ninja did, analysing all the different scrolls and cross-reference them really to see if they actually work. We've pulled together, you know, as I say, the kajutsu side, we've pulled all of it out, tried to rebuild the actual tools as best we can to the descriptions and see how well they work and what we're getting wrong as well. Everything that I'm getting wrong or getting right, like this torch worked really well, but I'd forgotten to put the weight in the front end, so the weight didn't really take it as you threw it. Pulling ropes to find your way through the dark, just simple things like that. And of course, stopping off for some great festivals like this one on Tokyo River, where it was lots of blue little balls are floated down and picked up at the other end. And of course, you can't help but go to the Renaissance Fair type samurai activities. They do them all over the world. And while I'm a little bit skeptical of these types of things, even though this guy on the left is pretty good actually, I do find it, you know, it's a bit too far. Now, of course, I've met lovely people like Otaki Sensei here, who's now passed away sadly, and he wonderfully just shared all of his ninja tradition with me orally, and we published it. It was superb. But on the other end, we have to go, this was before the internet was really good at this. These are the old ninja scrolls where you have to physically go to the library and get on the microfilms and check the microfilms and then get your photocopies and send them home. And I have spent thousands and thousands of pounds on photocopies. That is why I basically ask for donations at the end of the year. I tend to ask for donations because it costs so much to do all this. Some things have failed, like this. We couldn't get this to work. And some things don't fail, they do really well. But on the whole, I've, you know, tried to fulfill everything. I've been to book fairs, antique fairs, everything. This wasn't the greatest book fair. I didn't know anything really to help me, but it was worth going to. But this book fairs is where I found most of my things. I climbed holy mountains to see, you know, to follow in the footsteps of the old samurai, and found it a struggle in the heat. I really did. I do struggle with that. And of course, we've had to find all the different aspects of the ninja themselves, and this is a donohi. This is very, very popular in ninja stuff. Now, you may have seen it at the beginning, but I had a fire arrow, so I decided to make, and I've only done it once, is a fire arrow out of the manual. So I used the Bansen Shukai manual and the Nippiden to bring this fire arrow together. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm struggling to know if it worked or if it didn't work. You'll see what I mean here, because it goes quite well, but then when I shot it, I wasn't sure if it propelled any further or if it was just to take fire there. So that was part of the problem. But you'll see here, I draw it back on an English longbow, up it goes, and that would go into a castle compound. I've even been out at night following footsteps in the snow, trying to track, using the ninja arts of tracking, using a cane to find those footprints. All of these types of things. Now, of course, I did get recognised. I am now the historical ambassador for Wakayama for my research, and I've given lectures in Iga. I've given lectures to the Japanese, and one of my probably proudest moments was some of the Japanese professors and experts come up to me afterwards and said they don't believe I know so much. They said, I don't believe you know that much, and they were very impressed, and I was very happy. I then obviously have to turn to the sword. So I showed you mainly ninjutsu, which is what I did mainly in the early days. Things like this, like looking at the moon, which is not really ninjutsu, it's part of just common life in the old days, but before lights and electric. But the sword had to come in, the sword and bows and arrows. And I started to realise what we know about the sword is not as much as we think. And we actually don't know how the samurai fought for 50% of their life, and that the most important 50%. So I decided to take up the Japanese bow, but I didn't take up Kyudo. I did a few lessons of Kyudo in Japan, and I thought it was really bad, actually. And then I learned more about Kyudo, and it turns out it's very ceremonial. It isn't military. So I looked into military archery, and this is where I got. So I found an old archery club in Eccles. This is back in England. Got myself a bow. Actually, it was a bow on loan, if I'm honest. I need to buy another bow. And I went and researched how the Japanese actually fought in war, or at least how the Koryu today, the old schools, brought it about. So, for example, kneeling down, taking arrows out of the back. This was absolutely, you know, one thing that I did to pull their form lower. So I took lots of angles on this video, and I really enjoyed this video, and it did quite well. I did enjoy this, but I thought I'd show you extra shots of this because I wanted to show you the length I would go to try to bring the samurai to life. I didn't want to just sit in a dojo and, you know, fire at a target. I wanted to find out what the samurai did. They walked forward, they moved down, they got back, they took their arrows out of their back, you know, not at the side. There was different ways that they approached. All of these types of things. You know, lying on the floor, standing up, shooting. And I had to go through archery manuals. I had to find different videos, old school things, people who'd been in these Koryus. I've been around as many as possible. I've even been to, this is not a firework, this is a military signals firework. They call that basically Dragon. I took this picture, it was amazing. And that's one of the rockets. So I went all the way to a festival where they would shoot Sengoku period rockets. So I could experience just what the samurai would feel like when they were signaling to each other. And then look at the ceremonial side of it, how the martial arts had transferred into dancing, and, you know, hear the lion dancing. However, and while I do appreciate traditional martial arts, I do believe that traditional martial arts have some problems, innate problems within them. And that is why I went round to as many of these shows as I could to look at them and really get to grips with what they were showing. And I found that a lot of it was over formalized, and while there are secrets there to be had, when you compare them with the original scrolls, there's problems. But I've ended up in some amazing places. Like here, I was listening to Okinawan music in Tokyo, or I think it was music from Osaka, I can't remember. But there's nothing better than having a beer and chatting to people here, which was lovely. I've been to many dojos, many dojos, and here is Kawasaki-san, and he's cutting away with one of their exercises with paper. Now, I've not seen Kawasaki-san for 10 years, but I've started working with him again, and we're trying to pull the best of Muhyoshi Ryu together again, so we can start to have a look at how the scrolls reflect what the training has done today. So I've, again, pulled people together. I used to run a lot of seminars, and we used to do quick draw skills. That's actually with live blades, by the way. Obviously, we're not in any danger because we're staying away from each other. But the idea is, can you draw live blades, quick draw, within, you know, as quick as possible? And I do this on most of my seminars. I'll explain what happens with my seminars nowadays. And on the left here is Ben Morgan, who disappeared. It's a shame. So I say most people go, I don't know if it's me, maybe it's me, but I find that most people stay for a short amount of time, but then when it gets difficult, leave. And as again, it might be my fault. We've got night vision cameras. We've took them out and had a look at how light works in the, you know, at night, if you like, and how to find people, how far you get with torches. And that guy there, that's Peter Allen, and he was dressed ninja style and is hidden. And, you know, I got to a point where I can see him or can't see him, and then we would investigate with the camera afterwards. Now, again, I will keep coming back to the sword. I was really looking to find the way the sword was used from old manuals. And here, one on the right there is one of my best guys is Andrew Throburn. He's off thinking now, but I had people from all over the world try these sword techniques that were from the manuals, show them. Because what we wanted to do is find out just how they worked and what really works for everybody around the world, different heights, different sizes. So I would go out, get training, get to the woods, and people, as I say, Andrew was in Thailand at this point. Now, what I also did is we had people pick up different stuff, and this ended up on Japanese television. This is amazing. I forget who did this, but this is Fukushima Ryu, and it's an arrow stopper, and this is from our research, and they made this, and I was so impressed, and it really works. You can see they're actually having arrows passed at them, but not everything was a success. Look at this failure. That was a torch that wasn't meant to happen, and I nearly burnt everyone. But again, bit by bit, as the years go on, I found myself in different seminars in different places. But what I did struggle with is, if it wasn't direct martial arts, people tended to not be so happy. They tended not to enjoy it so much. So what I had to do is start to aim to understanding the sword. And of course, I do really like the sword. So it's not that I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to keep martial arts a little bit separate from the history. Now, these two gentlemen, I've totally forgotten their names. I'll be honest with you, I've forgotten their names, but they used to do great work. They had a channel in America maybe 10 years ago, but have since disappeared. And they would take my teachings and try and make them work. So they would do everything in their gardens to see if they could get everything to work from the Book of Samurai and the Book of Ninja and things like this. They even got the sort of gel-filled dummies. It was superb. But bit by bit, I started to see my research take shape and really start to come together across the world. And what was really nice is in the seminars, things really started to take shape. And this is me with my Natori Ryu uniform on, and you're starting to get students to really come together. And yes, this is from a real manual, and bit by bit, it started to come into a real good group. But unfortunately, like everything, well, COVID hit for a start, but like everything, it's difficult and it's hard. And I found that after COVID, people didn't really care. And that was the Natori family after that. Sorry for talking. And this was me in my first cottage. I got to try on Western Armour for the first time in my life, and I loved it. But I also got this Paul there. He's now since left, but he did really good, and he was a good fella. And I just think he struggled socially, but he's a very, very nice man. And then for the first time, I got my own Japanese armour from Iron Mountain Armories. So please do get them from there if you want to get some. And I enjoy a bit of fun. So I'd run down the road in Wales. This is my house on the right. And waving at people, getting beeps and everything. And everybody had a good time. Because I want people to find samurai accessible. I really do. So I've spent a lot of money hiring halls, buying equipment, and pulling people down. And these guys did it for free. They paid for their own training fares and everything, but it still costs thousands to get these things produced. It really does. And this was Iga Tengu sent me some experimental weapons from Muhyoshi Ryu. And here you can see I'm practicing in my spare bedroom. And oh, I loved this. What I tried to do is, everybody does sword cutting, but what I tried to do is do a sword cut like they say in the manuals. Everybody sword cuts from a distance and tries to hit as best as they can, but you're fighting, you're up close, and you're only slightly even pushing on. So watch, push and cut. What sort of cut do we get? That's it. So now I knew that we don't have to do all those types of cuts and all those big cuts to get the damage we want. Now, my sister is an adept at stage makeup, so I asked her to show cuts on her body to show what it would be like. So I got everything done here, which was wonderful. It really started to show the blood and the guts, if you like. And again, we had our seminars running with everybody turning up. If you look very closely there were some swords on the table, all uniform. And what we did is experiment with samurai armor. So we moved it up from just in the kitchen with some firework display stuff to now full samurai armor out in the mountains, studying the knife, studying everything, getting booklets together, getting people signed off, starting to get a real organisation together. But as I said, it didn't come to a close. It's still open. You can train with us. Search Natori Ryu Hub on Facebook. But basically, COVID put a massive stop to it. Now, I went to Japan to study Kuji. This is in the temple, and I learned all about Kuji from a monk and through historical scrolls as well. And this is Juji, where you do the extra sign on top. This was done inside a temple. We rebuilt landmines, fake ones of course, and all the different things from different manuals. Again, Andrew Throburn, he's looking at this is a fire tool for samurai, and it's how, you've got to go against people like this. But I didn't just want to do the exciting stuff. Sun Tzu says you should get models, so it counts, as he says. So I got models, and I paint, and I quite enjoy painting models, and I quite like to say I'm not bad at them. So what I did is I painted models exactly replica to the way that they would be used with their different esoteric meanings and everything. I got artists from around the world to do pictures of the ninja as they would be. Some of them were a little bit crazy, and some of them maybe not so historical, but still a lot of great effort. People would send me their videos, and I don't mind putting them up. Obviously, it's not fully historically accurate, but it was a good effort from this gentleman. But I did ask him to do something on the torch and it become quite good. Blackened face, torch, headband to see in the night, take it off if you want to, you know, disappear, or put it on with your allies. I got involved with different schools like Taisha Ryu. Now Taisha Ryu are a traditional Koryu and they do a lot of things. And their videos were superb, but they've stopped producing now, unfortunately, which is a shame. And they still take students. If you're interested, search Taisha Ryu, and they have a wonderful, wonderful school. I've met people from all over the world, and here's Nick doing his Iai Jutsu, basically, and his sword cutting. And I really, really have investigated sword cutting to see what you need to do. And I've talked to people there. I've even offered the Koryu people, basically, I will fight any Koryu person, and only one person answered me fully in the sense of England. People in America have answered, but it's just too hard to get to America with all the gear. And but basically, I met a kendo guy, and he said he would have a go. And this is me at the beginning of my retraining for swordsmanship. So obviously, we all did our swordsmanship training at the beginning, but here's me looking from the manuals. I actually lost. I won a couple, but he won first. And then by the time I got into the swing of it, I think I took his arm and he took my arm, so it was a bit of a draw, but overall he won. But it was still a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I really started to look at this, how the samurai would fight. I started to get rid of the Koryu. A lot of Koryu people got angry with this, but I started to look at the manuals more and more and see what actually helped. Then fun things like this, like whistling arrows outside at the back here for me, and see how the whistling arrows worked. And I had people come down and help me out. A guy called Marcus Payne would come down. Now, at this point, you'll see my actual style of videos have changed because I'm renovating a barn. So about 6 to 7 hours a day is taken up renovating a barn, which is going to be my home. So a lot of the courses have come to a halt, and I've had to, as I said, spend a lot of money hiring halls, buying this equipment. So I think I spent about £700 or £800 just on this day's filming, and the videos just did not do very well. They probably earned me about £10 back. So it was a big fail. Again, why I asked for donations at the end so we can get these things going. But all of the things you see here are absolutely from historical manuals. So what I tried to do is bring the historical manuals to life and see what works, what doesn't work. And I'm going from different manuals and the way it tells us to fight. And I'm going to be bringing all of these out. But unfortunately, the samurai people have lost interest in the samurai. So I went to Spain again, and we spent 2 years studying Yagyu Shinkagyu and reinterpreting the scrolls, the actual scrolls, these scrolls, what the Japanese people actually wrote, and put their skills back together how they were actually written. And that is how they worked. That's how they actually were written. That documentary did well, but not as well as I was hoping, and obviously there was a lot of pushback from that. But as I said, COVID hit, life hit, and then renovating barns, this really hit. So don't worry, guys, I've not given up. But my action shots, my fire, everything else, you know, the seminars have all come to a bit of a stop. I did run one seminar here, but basically it was a bit of a failure because we're sort of living on a building site, working in mud. So what I've tried to do is keep my YouTube going by doing, you know, just me, you know, headshots of me and putting up as many videos as I can. As you can see here, I've got 1,000+ videos here on all the different things. I still get to go to America occasionally and teach the swordsmanship, but as you can see by the lack of numbers, I must admit this is actually Independence Day, I think, or one of the festivals for America, or Thanksgiving, I think it was. So there wasn't that many people there, but these are all teachings from real samurai scrolls. So follow me. My name is Anthony Cummins. I'm trying to keep you up to date, and this is 20 years of study on the samurai, and I'm getting there, but I've got 20 years more. So please do follow me and get a copy of my book. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Anthony Cummins. If you want to follow me online, you can follow me on YouTube on Samurai and Ninja History with Anthony Cummins, where I'll deal with all the history of the samurai and the ninja. You can follow me on Samurai Martial Arts Real Training. This is where you'll get only the physical, you'll get only the martial arts. You can follow me on Natori Ryu, where I teach and show all the different strategies and warfare related to the Natori family. Now, outside of this, I also do some other things. So you can join me on Western Culture and Tradition, where I look at the little bits of information from the West, our folklores, our customs. You can also join me on Warduke. This is purely a fantasy channel, a little bit of fun for me in my spare time. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me again on Samurai and Ninja History. This is my basic account. And again, getting back to the fantasy, you can follow me on the Dungeon Crawl, where I'll go through everything that's eerie, dungeon synth, and all of those fantasy elements. And finally, I put some of my art on all Space Marine chapters. I do this just so I can do a little bit of art and keep up to date with the artistic world and keep my skills alive. I hope to see you there, guys, and I look forward to all of the comments on my posts and videos.